Hello, Year 10. This lesson is about the detailed structure of the alveolus. You need to turn to page 18 in your book, and you should see an image on the page in black and white of a single alveolus. And when scientists draw this on the board, they start off, as I am here, showing the end of the bronchiole, and then the alveolus itself is like a sac. So this is our bronchiole here, and the circular part is the alveolus itself. Now scientists often will show the alveolus as being very, very delicate and very thin, and having a wall that is basically one cell thick. So each of these is supposed to represent a little cell. So you can imagine a very, very thin, delicate structure made of one cell thick. So there would be a nuclei in each of these cells going around the edge of the alveolus. So that's the basic structure of the alveoli, and there are millions of these making up the lungs. Surrounding all of the alveoli, and the reason why the lungs look so reddy pink, is you have a very, very narrow blood vessel called a capillary. And these capillaries surround the alveoli in a network. And again, capillaries are so tiny that normally only one red blood cell can travel at a time through them. And they also are only one cell thick. So it makes the distance that the gases have got to travel across from the alveoli into the blood very, very small. So here is our very delicate capillary running right next to our alveoli. Okay, so each of these would be one cell thick. And we have our red blood cells travelling along this narrow capillary. And as the blood comes into the lungs, it is what we call deoxygenated. In other words, it contains very little oxygen. So it's come from the body where all the oxygen has been used up, and it's coming into the lungs, and hopefully it's going to start to pick up oxygen here. Now, one final part of the alveoli, just as a physical structure, is on the inside lining the alveoli. You wouldn't expect this, but there is a thin layer of moisture. And most people would say, well, hang on a second, if there's moisture or water inside the lungs, surely we'd drown. This is such a thin layer, and it's there to help the gases dissolve in the moisture to help them travel across the alveolus. And they travel across the alveolus by what we call diffusion. So basically, we're breathing in and out, and we've got this kind of pumping action of replacing the air at the surface of gas exchange. So our alveolus, our single alveoli here, or single alveolus, is our structure of gas exchange. So as we breathe in, oxygen comes into our mouth and our nose, down the trachea, down the bronchi, down into the bronchioles, down towards the alveoli where it's got this massive surface area for gas exchange. And there are more oxygen molecules, let's say on this side, inside the alveolus, okay, than there are in the blood cells. So there's not very much oxygen at all. So going back to what we learned in the first unit, oxygen passes across, dissolves in this moisture, and then travels by diffusion through the very thin one cell thick wall of the alveolus, across the tiny gap that is this capillary is very close to the alveolus so that it doesn't have to travel very far, across the one cell wall of the capillary, and is picked up by our red blood cell there. So now our blood becomes what we call oxygenated. In other words, got plenty of oxygen to carry off around the body to where it's required. Now this deoxygenated blood that's coming in to our lungs here has got quite a lot of carbon dioxide. So because I can't write the word fully in there, I'm going to put the formula. Carbon dioxide is made by respiration, and obviously we want to get rid of it. So if there's a high level of carbon dioxide here in the blood, so that's my little red dots, but there's not very much here in the alveoli, it's going to pass by diffusion along the concentration gradient through the capillary wall, through the little gap between the alveolus and the capillary, through the alveoli wall, dissolve in the moisture, and carbon dioxide is going to be removed out that direction. So this is what we call the exchange of gases. Now, the alveoli are adapted. That word adaptation, okay, means a feature that helps whatever it is, it might be a whole organism or it might be a structure, to do its job. So the job of the alveoli is to exchange gases. So how are they adapted to do this job? Well, first of all, there's lots of them, okay? If we've got lots of alveoli, millions of them, that gives us a huge surface area. Huge surface area means more gases can be exchanged at any one breath in and breath out. If you imagine there's millions of these making up the lung structure, yeah, it has a huge area. We have the thin wall of the alveolus. Only one cell thick means that there's less distance for our gases to travel across. We have the thin layer of moisture, allows the gases to dissolve. Dissolved gases travel by diffusion a little bit easier.